This is the second interview with a young man who reports he has leukemia, but is in a state of remission. In his first interview, he realized that the self he had at age 7 was a very precious self, and that social expectations caused him to lose it. He also approached the feelings of anger he has felt about what has been done to this self and to him. But he's not yet expressed his anger. Now the second session begins. Okay. Where do you want to start this morning?
Well, I don't know. I was thinking that when we talked earlier about the anger, been thinking a great deal about that.
I've thought a lot about what you had to say about that.
Right. You know, and I'm not sure that that I really don't want to be angry. You know, and I'm not sure if being angry now is a part of the process, and I've got to do that. But I'd like to. I guess my mind academically or something, you know, and something other than emotion or whatever, would like to tell me that I'd like to not be angry and to skip over that part if that's a part of the process, you know. But I'm not sure I can do that, you know.
Your mind says sort of, oh, cool it, don't get into such strong emotion.
For sure. It almost seems like that whatever is happening in my environment or whatever happened in my environment is pulling me into, again, that kind of a trap, that kind of a system that I don't particularly care, you know, if you know what I mean.
I think I get that your mind is taking the place of the system and saying, now, play it right, do the proper thing.
Right.
But some other part of you is saying, yeah, but there's some anger there.
For sure.
There's some real anger there.
Right. It's almost like in this country, and I've always felt like this, you only have about two options, you know. When you deal with race, you're either a racist or you're an anti-racist. And that doesn't really seem to be the kind of thing that I don't really care to be an anti-racist, if you know what I mean, anymore. And I don't want to be a reflection of any other larger society at all. I really don't want to.
You'd like to get in touch with what's going on in you, not some label or other.
For sure. I think that I could probably trust that a lot better than trusting what's happening or what has happened. And when I think about that, when I think about all of that, you know, that things that we talked about, I think that that's worse than the leukemia. You know? I know that may sound very strange or whatever, but a lot of things have been strange, you know, since this time. And what has happened to me didn't just start when I found out that I, you know, was going to die, kind of thing.
Let me see if I understand that you feel as though what the culture and people and so on have done to you, it really caused you more suffering than the leukemia. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I think so. And to some extent that is mild. Like, for instance, you know, I don't know what would happen if I had died or if I will or whatever, but I certainly know what's happening now and what happened. You see? And to some extent, that kind of leukemia, that kind of deterioration of the body is the same kind of thing that happened to my mind. And, you know,
well, really what the culture did to you was give you a cancer of the mind.
Yeah. I really want to say that, and I really want to, and I believe it, you know. And I guess that part of me that's my culture, and it's a part of the total, that's saying that it's not all that good to be angry, you know, because militancy is frowned upon or whatever, you know. And I guess I'm using militant in my sense because of it's just traditionally, you know, when blacks become angry, they're not angry, they're militant. You know what I mean?
I know.
So,
another label.
For sure. Yeah. And there's nobody that I can put my finger on, you know, that person that started the whole thing, that process, you know, because that would probably be a lot better for me, you know, than I probably would try to do that person in.
Yeah, if you could, if
You
you
know?
could pin it on one person, then your rage would be justified, and you could really get after that person.
But how, but how do you blame somebody else is sick? You know? And I think that people that do that to other people, or at least when it was done to me, they're really sick, And here I am, trying to, I don't know if it's forgiving. I don't know if I'm sounding confused or whatever, maybe, but trying to accept their sickness, And at the same time, I really haven't had the opportunity to let anybody accept mine. Or maybe I haven't given it to them, but...
Yeah, maybe you haven't given it to them.
Right.
That's what I sense is going on now, that you feel there's so many reasons why I really shouldn't express my anger. I'll talk about all those reasons.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, really. Maybe I'll just be angry one day, and maybe I'll really feel better or whatever, And when I smile, I'm I'm smiling, but there's a lot of, and I'm sure you know that there's a lot of anger there, But it's not my nature to be angry. It's not my nature to be angry, but I feel angry.
Yeah, so I hear you explaining that it's not my nature to be angry. It's just that I am angry right now.
For sure. For sure. And to try to be angry in a productive way. I don't know how you be angry in a productive way, in terms of... It's like now when I respond to people, when you encounter people, whether it's in the street, whether it's in a professional situation or whatever, people send out certain messages. And no matter what they're saying or whatever, there's certain kinds of messages that I'm getting, It's saying that, hey, that isn't for me kind of thing, And as before, I'd like to work with that and like to try to communicate without alienating people or whatever. But now, I'm ending up saying, like, hey, that's a bunch of crap. Don't tell me about the way that I should do it or give me all that nonverbal stuff about you saying that I'm okay, but by non-verbally saying, hey, you're really not okay, And I don't want to hear that kind of stuff anymore.
I get what you're saying, and I also feel quite strongly that I want to say, it's okay with me if you're angry here.
But it's hard to know how to be angry,
Sure. I'm not saying you have to be. I'm just saying it's okay with me. If you feel like being angry, you can be angry.
You really believe that?
Damn right.
Well, not sure how to respond to that at all. Because a part of that anger is, the hurt, and maybe what's happening is that if I become angry, and I really let it hang out, that I really will see how hurt I am. And that just came to me as you were talking. That maybe
perhaps at a deeper level, you're afraid of the hurt that you may experience if you let yourself experience the anger.
For sure.
Huh.
Really? I keep getting these blocks, these, when I come to something like that, because, to me that's a revelation, and I'm not really sure that risking being angry, I guess, or something like that, losing control, maybe.
Yeah. I really do get that this realization that maybe what I'm most afraid of is the hurt that I might experience, makes you more cautious about whether you should or could really let go of the anger.
I really don't know. I think that...
It's a risk.
Right. And it's, I haven't really thought about that before. And
It's new.
yeah, it's, I guess I would be, and I really would admit openly that I'm hurt. I said that I've been hurt, and I think that I feel I've been hurt, but to show that,
To show it, and I guess to let yourself sort of experience it, that I guess would be difficult.
Yeah, I don't know. It's as scary, I think, as the possibility of that I had before, more than before, about dying, And maybe, just I was really scared because of the symptoms, of, not being able to walk and not being able to see and things like that, and having to depend on somebody, And for God's sake, having to show somebody that I'm hurt. And how can I trust that to somebody,
Seems like a horribly big risk.
Yeah, it is. It seems to be getting bigger and bigger as we talk.
Suppose I really expose to somebody the fact that I'm deeply, deeply hurt. That in a sense would be comparable to having to be dependent on someone when you can't walk or something like that.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to just to say it's my conditioning. That's one way out of it, isn't it? But that isn't really acceptable to me now because I feel that. I feel like that I have to express that hurt or whatever. But, I can say that. And I know right down here, I'm saying that, and when I say it, it kind of keeps something down here,
You're saying it from here up.
For sure. For sure. I don't know how to do that exactly or whatever. It's just like I don't drink a lot, because I don't really want to experience that kind of, alcohol to me is a depressant anyway. And, that's about the only thing I really like to get out. To really get out, maybe saying, like, I love somebody. I gave of myself. I did the best I could, and it wasn't good enough. And, demand on top of demand and everything like that, it's just, shit, it's like that I'd like to be able, and I said this the other day, or when I was talking to you, that I'd like to be able to say that, yeah, I was screwed over and I got hurt and everything else like that or whatever, but it's almost an admission in a way, on another level of saying that they got the best of me, And I really don't want, I really don't want anybody historically to have gotten the best of me, but they did. They did. They beat the hell out of me.
You don't want to say I really was defeated at times, and yet that's the truth.
It is. Having it being all right to be defeated and be beaten, and I don't know if there's any value in, maybe to myself, admitting it to myself or whatever, but, I'm really finding out I got a lot of hang-ups in terms of in that line that I hadn't thought of before, in terms of, because I don't want to be beaten, but I was, because I think when you are hurt, that's being beaten, and I allowed myself to, and I don't regret caring, and I don't regret loving or whatever, but, like I'm a kid, I'm a kid in a way. I like to be loved too. I like to be, some reciprocity. And I'm going to start, I think, expecting that. You know, without being cold or anything like that. But I have to, you know, start getting something back in return.
You want love to be mutual.
For sure. For sure. And I don't want to get in a situation like I'm in now, you know, where I'm afraid to show anybody that I'm hurt. You know, scared to death, terrified.
Something really awful about letting anyone know that I'm hurt.
Well,
I'm hurting.
Sure. It's, you know, it has something to do with being a man. It has something to do with the race thing. You know, it has something to do with a relationship. Maybe the failure of a relationship. A lot of things, you know, a father not being in the home with his children. You know, really feel like being a victim. I don't know how to get that up at all. Every time I get close to that, I take a drink of water. I don't know if that actually keep it down there.
Maybe that'll keep it from coming up above this level.
For sure. I don't know. It really isn't what I want either. You know, I wanted to get out and stay out, you know.
I would like to let it out.
Yeah. So maybe if you have any exorcism type powers or whatever, that maybe you can just do that and then I'll be free of that, you know. Because that's what it feels like. It feels like there's something there, you know, that I really, and I've identified it. I think I've identified it, you know. Because I know there's sometimes when there's just such a big lump in my throat, you know, and then I give myself a lot of reasons why I shouldn't be feeling like that, you know.
A big lump of hurt, though. And how to let that hurt come out in the open, how to let it emerge and be out here instead of way down locked in here.
Right. Yeah. You know, I never believe in cookbook answers to anything. Even when I cook, I don't use a cookbook. I just don't believe in it. I think, but I'd really like to be able for somebody to tell me to, you know, maybe how to do that in about 5 minutes and be through with it so I can live the rest of my life in peace. You know what I mean?
Sure. It'd be awfully nice if somebody could say, now if you do this and this, all your hurt will come out and it'll be gone forever.
For sure.
Be great, wouldn't it?
For sure. I have a suspicion that maybe you know some things that I don't know.
No. I'm not holding out on you.
Yeah, I believe that. I feels like I'm holding out on myself. You know, but hell, you know. I don't know.
I think it goes back to some of those things you're mentioning. A man doesn't admit he's hurt. A black man especially doesn't admit that he's been hurt by anything. A father doesn't admit he's been hurt by being away from his children. Just too many things that say, no. Don't let it out. But inside there's the hurt.
Yeah.
A phrase came to me a minute ago that if you could let that out, I don't know if this will ring true with you or not, if you could let that out, it would be the voice of the victim. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But
Yeah, and I don't know I don't know if I have any control over that, you know, of what would happen, you know. It's like a friend of mine the other day who helped me through my illness and everything. He says, you know, when I had encountered another person that, you know, very intelligent sort that was talking a bunch of intellectual garbage about feelings and things like that, that I really wanted to just, you know, I really saw the society, the culture right in him, you know, and I really wanted to just to kind of deck him. And that's something that's not my nature or whatever, but like I just really wonder what...
Just like to have sucked him.
Yeah. And my friend said, you know, one of these days, he says, if you don't get it together or something, he says, not that if you don't get it together, but he says, one of these days you're going to really lose it, you know. You know what I mean? It's that I want to get rid of all that stuff that was done to me and not have to hear all that other stuff, or to be able to deal with it in a very constructive kind of a way, you know. But still it grinds me because of all the other stuff that's happened to me. And when I see other people doing it to other people or whatever, it grinds me, it makes me angry, you know. And I would think that in those situations I've begun to kind of strike out, you know, or like, you know, protecting somebody else or fighting for somebody else or whatever. And like, I'm not sure what I did for myself, though, those years that all that happened to me or whatever. And if I could cry and have it be all right.
That's what I was thinking.
That
I
would
was
be
just thinking if you could only cry.
Yeah, if it, you know, but that's a trip, you know, that's a trip. Like,
First place a man doesn't cry.
yeah, for sure. That's a fact.
But I guess you're saying there are times when you have that lump in your throat and you sure as hell feel like crying.
For sure. Oh, I don't know. I don't know, maybe going to a movie of one of those old, you know, movies, dramas or something like that, right? So I can cry, you know, and have an excuse to cry, you know, but crying for myself, I'm not sure that, I'm just not sure that's going to be constructive, you know.
I don't know, you say you're not sure whether crying for yourself is constructive. I feel also you're afraid of crying for yourself.
I may be. Because if I feel like crying and I don't or whatever, there's some things that are, you know. But you see, that's a part of it too, you know. It's, you know, and I hate to keep using these things of, you know, we're just being so conditioned not to, you know. You know, from a little thing of, you know, like, oh, you know, big little men or big boys or whatever don't cry and
Probably your 7-year-old could cry.
Yeah, for sure. I cried. I remember crying, but I cried alone. I never let anybody see me cry. You know? I wonder how many people have seen me cry, probably 2 or 3 in the whole world. It's kind of interesting, you know? I remember living with my ex-wife or whatever, she cried all the time. She cried getting up in the morning and you know, just crying for crying. You know, I asked her sometimes about why she cried, and she just said, I don't know, she just wanted to, felt good. I don't know if that was healthy or whatever, but it probably was a lot more healthier than what I did.
Probably is better than never letting anyone see you cry.
Right. There's just so many other ways to do it, you know, that I've learned. You know, like working hard. Not thinking about it. You know? Not thinking about it.
Just saying that all the sorrow that you feel for yourself and for what's happened to you and all that, that doesn't really exist. That's just, you're too busy to have any thoughts of that.
For sure.
But the sorrow is still there.
For sure. Yeah. And I really don't know how to deal with that. I really don't. You know, just really giving so much of yourself, and it's just really crazy. Too much.
If you did cry, what would some of the themes of that crying be?
Well, just, all those, hours that, I spent away from my family, and that I gave up my family and didn't see my children grow. And, really wanted that to be for some kind of a higher level, some kind of a cause, But not to have that, to see anything, any benefit that I did. All of that work, I mean, hours and hours, and it's just incredible. And I think that would be one, I was saying, damn it, why in the hell did I spend so much time? Why did I spend so much time, The leukemia, everything that happened to me or whatever would be probably deserved if one person, life would have been changed or something, and like, and maybe it has or whatever, but I think that I don't trust that it was worth it. You see?
Yeah. You invested a whole lot of caring, a whole lot of yourself, and feel real sorrow that maybe nothing came of that.
And I'd also like to just kind of cry for my father-in-law too, that was killed before about 6 months before I got the leukemia. I'd like to really tell him that that I really loved him a great deal.
So you're telling me in place of telling him. Maybe you could even speak to him, I don't know, but at any rate you really would like to tell him, I loved you, you know that? I loved you.
Well, I really would, the situation that we started out, I was married, and we married somebody of a different race, and we fought it out tooth and nail or whatever, but yet we loved each other, and we fished together, and he was straight with me, we had other people a very cold way, by God, this is the way it's going to be, and so forth. But I saw him when he was hurt, too. And when he was killed in 1975 in a hunting accident, it just really took all of it, Because he helped me to try to get out of that stuff. He's saying, hey, what are you doing? What do you really want to do? And at the time, I wanted to, to open my own restaurant or whatever. And so he was going to help me finance that restaurant, And so a week later, he was killed. 1 week. And so we were getting so close. But that I really never told him that, hey, Dan, hey, Dad, I love you. I really love you. And we told each other, I guess, in some ways or whatever, but it's not the same as saying, saying, hey, I really love you. I really care.
You feel real sad that you never gave him a straight message on that I love you.
Because he was straighter with me than a lot of people. And to be taken away from all of that. You see, because it's only been, 8 months or so since ceased all communication with my family, or my wife's family that I'd loved and I'd cared for, and then I buried my father-in-law. And that was it. And then even the family began to take on those same things at the culture,
Things began to fall apart for you there.
For sure, for sure. And lately, I don't know, falling apart, or at least my being able to see that that it really wasn't true. It wasn't real. I wasn't getting anything back. I wasn't getting any nourishment back, smiles and polite kisses and things like that, That is, part of the hurt. I'd rather for somebody to say, I think you're a lousy SOB or whatever, as opposed to saying, hello, dear, how are you?
When the real message perhaps is, I think you're a lousy SOB.
Right, right,